All right. So last time we talked about some principles of how to play close no combo in my definitive guide. This time we're going to go through some games my friend played against an AI I made, and I hadn't shown him much about the game yet. He's a much stronger player now than he was when we played these games, and I think he would be able to correctly evaluate a lot of the mistakes he made. But I'd like to go over the games and apply the principles we've learned to games that were actually played. So on the right hand side, you can see I've put in a quick version of the last video we had. First, figure out where do we want to play. Always be securing and don't let your opponent secure. That tells us what our goal is, where we'd like to play, and what we'd like to do while there. For instance, do we need to capture a card to secure or don't we? And then, which card should I play there if multiple cards achieve my goal? Well, we want to use the weakest card that achieves our goal. I should say in parentheses there, in fact, I can add it, magical. Directionality or raw power. Because there can be two ways a card can be more or less powerful, right? A card could be more powerful because it's just a stronger card, it has more raw power, but a card could also be better because it applies to the directions of the game more. The second rule that's very important is the rule of even and odds. If we have a card that has two sides facing out, we really want to be able to capture both ways. We are delighted to have cards that are completely safe, nothing touches them, secure cards. And if we only have one out-facing side, we really want it to be a high number so it's hard for our opponent to take. And then much less important are these following principles. Is there anything else to care about? We should slightly prefer moves that capture more, but not by much. And we should keep whether we're first or second turn in mind. So with those thoughts in mind, we're going to go through this game. And I don't want to focus too much on first move, so I'll say he picked this hand, so this is a game where you got to choose your hand. Some games are random, some games you get to select your cards. And he went for a lot of 7/6s, which seems very reasonable. We might look at his hand and say it seems a little redundant. His third and fifth cards both fit naturally in the corner 9, and so he might, for instance, instead want a card that's good in the corner 7 because he doesn't have a card that naturally fits there. But he clearly picked powerful cards, and I think it is a reasonable hand. And he opened with a weak corner type starter, which he liked doing at the time, probably still does, with 2, 3, 6, 7, and 7. So we'll just say for now, it follows the rule of evens. It can be taken back both ways. In fact, it can be taken back both ways by every single one of his cards. So it is a very easy card for him to recapture, and that makes a lot of sense, and I have no problem with this move. So we'll scroll down to the next move. Now, his opponent, I don't know how to get this thing to go away in the bottom, but his opponent captures his starter. And as always, once we scroll down to a position, feel free to pause and think about what would you do with his hand. Let's go through. We want to be securing, so of course we're going to play an 8. We have 4 different cards we can play an 8. And that makes the decision a little tricky because we have 4 cards to decide between. So the first thing I would check here is the rule of evens. We're going to be vulnerable 2 different ways, both to 5 and to 9. So we want to play an 8 such that we can recapture from both 5 and 9. So this rules out 7236, Brachiosaur, the dinosaur, because we cannot recapture it from 5. We don't have a same or a plus there. It doesn't rule out any other card. Note that the top card with the 6 to the right, or the second card, even harder to recapture, the imp with the 7 to the right, we can plus wall 2 different ways, either with the dinosaur, the 6 and the 3 can plus wall that 7, or the magic urn, where the 7 to the left is helped by the 4 facing down into the wall. So we only rule out one card by the rule of evens. Now, we might further add, it would be nice to have double captures in 5. For instance, a move we might not want to play because it gives up a capture. This is now starting to think about what's the weakest card that achieves my purpose. I don't want to give up a card that has power that's going to be important. So 6, 2, 4, 7, and 8 seems weaker to put there because it's the only card we have that can capture their card in 4 from 5. So that's probably something we want to hold on to. That clearly has this power that our other cards cannot replace. Another thing we might not want to replace is the 3, 6, 7, 4. It's got a 7 facing down. After we go an 8, the game will be somewhat downward directed, and the rest of our hand has very little downward power. So that seems like a card we'd want to hold on to, where generally the game looks like it's going to be directed a bit more down and left. So I think the best move is very clearly 3, 7, 3, 6, and 8. And that's because not only does it fit the rule of evens and it seems like a card with more redundant numbers and power in a direction to the right that we won't really need, but it's also very easy for us to recapture. The 7, 2, 3, 6 can plus wall it from 9, and it sets up a same for that very same card in 5. So I really like the look of 3, 7, 3, 6, and 8. But I wouldn't blame you too much for other moves there, though I think that one is clearly preferable. 3, 6, 7, 4, and 8 also sets up the same easy recaptures, but I think uses up a little more important power. But if you said that move, well done. However, my friend played 3, 6, 7, 3 in 1, and we know this is a mistake. We know this doesn't secure a card, and we could secure a card. And the opponent went in 5. And now we have another choice, so pause and think. So we always want to be securing, which means there are only 2 squares we should consider, 2 and 8. These are the only squares that secure a card. Our opponent now leads us 1 secured card to 0. Sure, they also lead us 6-4, but hopefully we know not to care about it. So now we want to play in 2 or 8. Now, we haven't really said differentiations of types of securing. We might think we have a slight preference towards capturing. But our card in 1, there's some chance it's safe. There's some chance with its 7 outfacing that it's already a pretty good card. So we should maybe be a little biased towards taking the card in 7. So let's say we want to go in 8 and capture 7. So we have 2 principles. We have used the weakest card that achieves our goal and the rule of evens and odds. Now, the game is clearly leftward facing. So the card that seems weakest is the 3, 6, 7, 4. But on the other hand, our other 2 cards are kind of redundant, and we might think maybe I want to hold on to something that is a little bit of different power. I don't think that's super clear, but it does look to me like it is our weakest card, and the game is going to be so leftward oriented that it's probably okay to expend that card. Though if we go in 8 and they go in 9, it would be nice to have a really powerful downward force to be able to take that from 6. So, somewhat unclear. The second rule, however, is the rule of evens and odds. And when we play an 8, we will have 1 out-facing side. And thus, when we have 1 out-facing side, what do we want? We want really high out-facing value to make it hard for them to take. So I like 3, 6, 7, 4, and 8, because it's possibly our weakest card. Unclear, but there's a case for it. And it's the only card with high out-facing value that might be difficult for our opponent to take. So I like 3, 6, 7, 4, and 8. And my friend, in fact, played it. And the AI replied with 4, 3, 6, 6, and 3, which is a weird move. And actually, I used this position as an example, I believe, in the definitive guide. And so, if you remember that, and you remember, or just understand, always be securing, where do we want to go? We really want to go in 2. It should be noted, 9 can also work, and we'll get into that in a sec. But we want to go in 2, because a move in 2 secures both 1 and 2. So, for instance, 6, 2, 4, 7 in 2. Captures 2 cards, puts us up 7-3. The only way they can even hope for a tie is if they can go in 6 and reply and capture twice to make it 5-5. And then our 7, 2, 3, 6, well, the 7 up, of course, is going to capture anything 6 or lower. And due to its 6 facing left, and we see there's a 6 facing right from 8, it can same any downward facing 7. So it can actually capture anything, and going 6, 2, 4, 7, and 2, and holding our 7, 2, 3, 6, in fact wins the game by force. It is a forced guaranteed win. At least 6-4. Now, what about 7, 2, 3, 6, and 2? This move seems weaker in the sense that it doesn't capture anything. 6, 2, 4, 7, and 2 captured due to plus, because the 4 down equaled the 4 facing up from 5, and the 2 to the right equaled the 6. I should have mentioned that. It could also capture the card in 5 using same, as it is a 4 facing a 4, and it is a 7 to its left facing another 7. So good to get rules practice in. But what about 7, 2, 3, 6, and 2? It turns out this move wins as well, and it might seem intuitively weaker because it doesn't have the captures, but the point is we care about securing, not capturing, and it is just as good at securing the cards in 1 and 2, and our 6, 2, 4, 7 is just as good at cleaning up at the end. It's tied 5-5, but if they go in 9 and reply, and we play 6, 2, 4, 7, and 6, we double capture at least. We capture the card in 5 because we overpower it, and we capture the card in 3 due to plus wall. Our 6 is helped by the 2 facing right. So we'd win there at least 6-4. And if they go in 6 and reply to our move in 2, our 6-2-4-7 can actually capture anything. Because its 6 will capture anything 5 or lower, its 6 will capture a 6 because the 2 facing right gives it a plus wall, and it can capture a 7 as well because 6 plus 7 equals 13, and its 7 is facing another 6, that equals 13 as well. So either of those moves win by force. There's actually another win by force. 7-2-3-6 in 9 wins by force as well, and you should pause and figure out why that works as well. Calculation practice is important. We do want to be focusing on capturing. But even just the principles we have on the right, always be securing, tells us any move in 2 is going to be good. And which card should we use in 2? Well, we should use the weakest card. And it's pretty clear that both our cards are just amazing in the remaining squares. They have such good power up and left. It's not clear which is the weakest card, and in fact, either card you use there, you're left with such a strong card remaining, you have a forced win. Sadly, my friend, I believe, played 6-2-4-7 in 6. And I don't have diagrams of the rest. Oh, I do. His opponent played 7-5-4-3 and 9. But we know 6-2-4-7 and 6 was a mistake. It gave up forced wins, and, just as importantly, it didn't secure anything. Now, it happened to win because our opponent didn't have things they could take. And my friend did win this game. You know, he's up 6-4, and he has the final move of the game. It doesn't capture anything, but he wins 6-4. But we can see this move in 6 was a big mistake. So that was the first game he played. And then he played a second game, now taking second turn against the same opponent. So his opponent plays 6-6-3-3 in 7. And I don't want to go too much into how to play starters, but using the guide I gave to replying to corner starters last time, it's clear we can take from both directions. We can take from 4 because we have a 7 down, and we can take from 8 because we have multiple 7s to the left. So we're given a lot of freedom. We're not forced to do anything because we don't need to set up against their starter. The one thing we shouldn't do is capture their starter. Problem was, I'd given my friend no guidance, so he made natural moves like taking when you don't know anything else to do. But hopefully at this point we understand you don't want to be just taking. We need to create spatial distance. We don't want to give them those easy securing moves. So there are lots of better moves, but kind of anything else is better. However, the opponent replied, so he captured an 8 with 2-3-6-7, and the opponent AI replied 5-6-5-3 and 5. And we know this is a horrible mistake because our opponent should play in 4 and secure a card. And not just should we be thinking, what should we do from Blue's perspective, but we should also be evaluating, is our opponent playing properly? And in fact, one useful thing in closed is if you notice, every time I get this structure, my opponent plays in a square I don't think is the right square to play in. That's great news. Keep playing for that structure because they're going to keep making mistakes. And we want to pick up easy wins. So okay, it's Blue's move, and we want to secure cards. So again, pause, figure out your move. Alright, so there are 2 natural squares to play. 4 secures the card in 7, and 9 secures the card in 8. Either one is fine. It should be noted both have 1 out-facing value, so we'll probably want that value to be as high as possible. So a move like 7-2-3-6 and 9 seems very good. It has a 7 facing up that secures a card. That seems great. 6-2-4-7, maybe a little weaker because the 6 up is a little weaker, but still very good. Either of those cards in 4 also have are going to be facing, the only out-facing number is up. So any of those moves is going to be a pretty good move. As long as you wanted to play one of those moves here, I think you found a good move. My friend played 7-2-3-6 and 9, which I really like, has the highest number out facing, a 7, and the AI went 2-1-6-7 and 3. You might be thinking, this AI seems not very good, they should have played that in 6, where it would in fact capture. Well, this AI is not very good, and it doesn't know about the plus rule, and so hopefully you see that the plus would happen in 6, and then you can be substantially better than this AI. So okay, pause and think about where you'd go. Alright, we want to be securing. There's only one move that secures 2 cards. Going in 6 secures 6 and 9, so we'd like to play in 6. We want to use the card that is the weakest. Generally speaking, the remaining squares are going to be 1, 2, and 4, and the directions that matter will be down and to the right, it looks like. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense to use 6-2-4-7 there. You'll also notice it double captures, one by overpowering, the other by plus walling, but mostly we're just going there to use our weakest card. I think there's also a case for using the 3-7-3-6 there. That card seems a bit weak too. But it seems reasonable. And one reason you might want to hold on to the 6-2-4-7, it does have a potential plus and 2 that could be useful, because it's 4 plus 5 equals 2 plus 7, and that could be good. So you could definitely play the 3-7-3-6 there. I think the card you wouldn't want to play is 3-6-7-4, because directionally, that's clearly our most powerful card. And we have been focused on directionality when determining which card to use, which is our weakest. And that makes a lot of sense, because we're using a lot of similar 7-6-3 type cards, and so they're all going to be pretty similar in raw power level, so the difference is going to be mostly which directions will we need. And so either move in 6 that isn't the 3-6-7-4, I think is a good move. What did my friend do? My friend found the plus. He saw, there's a plus in 2. But we know this is a huge mistake. You have to go in 6 and secure 2 cards. And he saw, I have a plus. He knew the rule. He thought, I have a plus. And this can be a problem when you learn an idea and jump for it every chance you get. And I'm glad he saw it, actually, because it can take a while to start seeing pluses quickly. And it showed that he was seeing it. It does take a lead 8-2. But if we look at securings, it takes the lead 8-2. But if they go in 6, they secure at least the card in 6. They can also retake the card in 3 or the card in 9 and secure up to 3 cards this move. This move is a disaster. However, the opponent did not play in 6. Very bad AI, and instead played in 4. You'll notice that card in 4 would have been much better in 6 because it would have plussed the cards in 3 and 9 and double captured and, given Red a great chance to hold this game or even win. But instead, they do not know the rules, and they captured the card in 5. Here, both moves secure 3. Any move can basically secure 3 cards, right? Or one of actually secures 4. So if we go in 1, we secure the cards in 1, 2, and 4. And if we go in 6, we secure the cards in 3, 5, 6, and 9. Now, we're so far ahead that both win by force. The only move that doesn't win by force is 3-7, 3-6, and 1, where if they happen to have the double capture in 6, they can get a tie. But any other move wins by force. This is, very bad AI. But we can still learn from the mistakes my friend made. He went in 1, the AI went in 6, lucked into a plus. You'll notice they flipped the card in 9. They didn't realize they were going to because they don't know the rules. But that is our first 2 games. My friend won both. He's definitely much stronger than this AI, which I named Garbage Man. Weak AI. But there were definitely a bunch of mistakes along the way, and I hope when you paused you spotted better moves. So then he took on a tougher AI. Not very tough, but a bit tougher. And it's his turn. His opponent played 1, 4, 4, 7, and 3. And I don't really want to pause here. I just want to say, again, the thing you don't want to do is capture. But actually, no, let's pause here a bit. Let's say, what do we want to do here? Well, we can capture their starter from 6, but not from 2. So we want to set up captures in 2. And the only way to do that is to play things in 1 or 5 that set up pluses, sames, plus walls. And so pause and try to find at least one move that sets up a way to capture their card in 3 from 2, and then we'll go over all the ways to do it. Okay, so one way is our bomb, 2, 7, 6, 3, and 1. That has a 7 to the right, they have a 7 to the left, so any card will be able to plus in the middle square 2 that has the same number facing out in both directions, because the same numbers are facing in. So our 6, 5, 4, 5 or our 4, 4, 7, 4 could plus in 2 if we play there. There is another way to set up a plus by going in 1, and that is to play 4, 4, 7, 4 in 1. Because it has a 4 facing right, their starter has a 7 facing left, that's a gap of 3, and our 7, 2, 3, 5 will then be able to plus in 2. So we have 2 ways to set up pluses there. We can also set stuff up in 5. Specifically, I believe we only have one way to do so, which is to play our 6, 5, 4, 5, and 5. It's 6 facing up, and they have a 7 facing left, so that's a gap of 1. And we do indeed have a card with 1 higher facing down than to the right. 7, 2, 3, 5 would be set up to plus in 2. It also sets up a same for our bomb, 2, 7, 6, 3, because it's 7 faces a 7, and the 6 faces a 6, so it would flip both. So I would play one of those moves. I would play a move that sets up against the side we can't take. My friend instead went for the capture. Ooh, I described the options, but... Huh. This is not the post I thought it was. Oh, no, it is. Okay, we have to move on to part 2. There's some discussion in that post, I'll link below if you want to read it, of different starting moves. But my friend just went and captured from 6 because, as he was describing himself at the time, all I do is capture, and we have now weaned him off that, and he plays much better. But he captures from 6, and the opponent recaptures from 2. So okay, let's think, what do we want to do? Well, we want to secure. We don't have any moves that secure, sadly. And you can see this position's already difficult. Our opponent has secured a move, and we haven't secured any. So it becomes tricky, and I think at this point we should really focus in on the weakest card that achieves a goal and the rule of evens and odds. And we'd like to make captures difficult for them. This is a position that maybe the guideline can't so much be the ones I've written out. And you can see by giving them such an easy securing, suddenly it's harder to play principally because the principles don't necessarily apply as well for difficult positions where we've made mistakes. So this is a tough position to play well, at least by those principles. I think our move is pretty straightforward though, and what I think we want to do is, especially because we're playing second turn and we should keep whether we're first or second turn in mind, we just want to give our opponent the toughest captures possible. And there is a 7 facing down towards 5, and we just want to give them really hard numbers to take. And so the natural move, the move I think is best, is 4-4-7-4 in 1. Because it has a 7 facing down, the rule of odds is we want to just, if we have 1 out facing direction, we want it to be something really hard for them to take. And a 7 down is going to be the hardest number for them to take. And the card in 2 also has a 7 down. So there is some chance they can't take either, and if so, we have 2 safe cards in a really good spot. But if they can take either, we're in a lot of trouble because they'll secure a second card. But there is no other move that really contests the position, gives them a tough time. So I like 4-4-7-4 in 1. And my friend did in fact play it, and the opponent did not have the capture in either 4 or 6, which is great news for him, but again, that doesn't justify his opening play. If the opponent did have the capture from 4 or 5 of 1 or 2, the cards in 1 or 2, then they would be, have secured 2 cards while we've still secured 0. That would be a disaster. Now, there's some hope. So what do we want to do here? Well, always be securing says we should go in 4 or 5. Those moves secure the cards in 1 and 2 respectively. Now, if we go in 5, they can go in 4 and secure 1 and 4. They might not be able to take 1, presumably they couldn't last turn, but they might because they just played in 7 and they might have been setting something up for 1. So if we go in 5, they can secure the card they play in 4 and they might be able to secure 1 as well. If we go in 4 and they go in 5, they can potentially secure the cards in 2 and 4, so they also have a potential double securing there. So either way, we give up a potential double securing, and we want to kind of give them the hardest one possible. And I think the most difficult is they've just set up a potential move in 4, so it makes a lot of sense to block 4 and make them have to capture high out-facing numbers from there. So 2, 7, 6, 3, and 4 looks like a very logical move. There are probably other reasonable moves, but we definitely want to play in 4 or 5 because we want to secure cards. Yeah. So yes, my friend Turds would go bomb in 4, succinctly put. And indeed, my friend did go bomb in 4 and was met with 6, 4, 3, 6, and 5. And this is unlucky. The opponent got a plus. 6 plus 7 equals 6 plus 7, and managed to flip 2 cards, and the position's tricky. But actually, we had to give them very specific out-facing numbers, right? Your opponent will always get lucky pluses or same somewhere because it's closed. We don't know their exact cards. All we can do is give them the toughest captures we can. And here, we should always be securing. A move in 8 secures the cards in 5 and 7, while a move in 9 only secures the card in 6, so it makes more sense to go in 8. And we want to use the weakest card that achieves our goal. That doesn't matter at this point because we are on our final turn of the game. So actually on this turn we want to use our strongest card because we won't get another chance to use our stronger card. And the rule of even and odds, we're going to have 1 out facing side, so we want it to be as high as possible. Both of our cards in 8 have a 2 to the right, so it does not matter which we play. We will go up 6-4, and we just have to hope they can't double capture and reply. Some games you have difficult situations. In the end, they could only capture one way, and he tied 5-5. So I just wanted to give more examples of closed, practicing with same plus and plus wall, using the kind of checklist I've given on the side. I think it wasn't actually super applicable to these games, but mostly because my friend was in such a capture mode that he would make early enough mistakes that we wouldn't have the options to capture. But in that first game, where he started with a corner and his opponent took it, it was easy and natural to find capturing moves and to apply these set of principles and try to find the best moves. So that's a bit more on closed. I think next time we're going to jump to talking about formations, different kind of structures and places people play that come up frequently, and how to think about them and how to play them properly. And then we will move on to the scariest rule of all, combo, which I will not spoil here, but is very exciting stuff. All right.